Welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight for the Candidate Forum from the AC Transit Ward 6. I am Melissa Allain, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Eden area, which includes Castro Valley and San Lorenzo and other areas nearby, Hayward. I am pleased to give you the following background information about the League. As you may know, the League of Women Voters is a trusted membership organization. We encourage informed and active participation in our government. We do not endorse or oppose candidates or political parties. For decades, we have offered fair and balanced candidate forums. The League participates in advocacy and voter education. The advocacy arm of the League may take positions on issues such as ballot measures. This forum is presented by the education arm of the League, where we do not take positions on the candidates. I'd like to remind everyone that the candidates have both agreed to participate under the ground rules that are set for this forum. The League is really proud of our history of civil discourse and nonpartisan forum. This is an educational event, again, not a debate. Before we get started, there's some details to review that will help you interact with this session. The microphones are muted for everyone except the candidates and myself as the moderator. Video images will show the candidates and myself as the moderator. The candidates will stay on screen for the entire forum until it is they'll stay on the screen for the entire forum, and they will mute until it is their turn to speak. The chat has been turned off for the attendees. We are recording the forum and will be posting it via our websites and social media, such as YouTube, for the broader community to access. We have one forum to present in this session, which will be for the position of AC Transit Ward 6. All candidates were invited to participate in this forum. The candidates who are not present were given the option to provide a statement to be read by the moderator, to be read after the other candidates who are present provide their closing statements. We will be handling questions for the candidates in the following manner. We have screened, well, let me just say first that questions have been solicited in advance from the community and from our local leagues. We have screened the questions to ensure that they are fair and unbiased and to avoid duplication and anything inappropriate. The order of answering the questions will alternate, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. The chat function will not be active. You may see the timekeeper screen. The clock will signal the candidates of their remaining time and when their turn is up. As moderator, I may verbally give them prompts as well. Remember that if the candidates go over time, I will remind them. I will attempt to allow the candidates to finish their sentence, but then we'll ask them to stop. And just as a reminder to the candidates, if you violate the ground rules, you can be prevented from answering future questions, be muted, or removed from the forum. There will be no separate rebuttals, as this is not a debate. Following the questions, each candidate will have a set time for a closing statement. The order of the candidates has been randomly assigned. We will begin with opening statements, starting with candidate Shonda.
Okay, we're ready?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Shonda Gower. Thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for having this event. I'm a public university administrator who has worked to ensure that represented staff have what they need and clients have what they need, and I can do the same for AC Transit. I also manage multiple multi-million-dollar budgets in times of crisis, which is what AC Transit also needs in times of its fiscal crisis. I'm a consensus builder and can bring people together. I have the endorsements across the ward of Fairview, Hayward, and Newark, including the mayors of both Hayward and Newark, 21 elected officials and commissioners across the ward, the endorsement of the Hayward Area Democratic Club. I am proudly endorsed by the Sierra Club, making me the environmental candidate. I am also proudly endorsed by AFSCME Council District 57, which covers workers in AC Transit and BART. And I am also proudly endorsed by AC Transit Board President Joel Young. I am the person that people want to work with to get things done for the workers and riders of AC Transit. I'm also the only woman in the race. And 10 years ago, there were no women on this board, and we don't want to go back to that. Finally, I want to protect public transit and particularly AC Transit, which serves limited income people, against the threat of privatization that looms because of things like Lyft and autonomous vehicles. AC Transit provides strong union jobs and access to work and to schools. And I am the candidate to preserve this vital service. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Candidate Goward. Candidate Gunn, for your opening statement.
Hello, my name is Jesse Gunn, and I'm running for AC Transit Director for Ward 6 because I believe that public transit is a key component of building strong communities where residents have access to school, good paying jobs, and essential services. I am the only candidate to be endorsed by the bus operators of ATU Local 192, as well as the Alameda County Democratic Party, the Labor Council, the Building Trades, Assemblymember Liz Ortega, Senator Aisha Wahab, and 2 current AC Transit women directors. I have a vision of building the public transit network that the East Bay deserves, one that meets the needs of our most vulnerable communities by providing on-time buses that are safe, frequent, and reliable, with dignified working conditions for our employees, and that is environmentally and financially sustainable. Being an AC Transit director means building consensus on long-term strategy and critical issues that affect the daily lives of people who depend on us. I may not have the same level of administrative experience as my opponent, but I believe that my record of service and community leadership demonstrates my commitment to progress. My experience as a bus rider, a public school teacher, city commissioner, labor leader, and in a multitude of committees and organizations has been invaluable. And balancing our budget is important, but this role is about more than just budgets. It's about truly representing and understanding the needs of our community. And I've been on the ground doing this work for a long time on issues that impact us all. That's why I'm endorsed by over 45 organizations and elected leaders in the East Bay, in addition to a couple dozen community leaders as well. I'm proud to have been working side by side and in cooperation with many leaders and residents in Ward 6, and I'm excited about maintaining and elevating that level of cooperation and commitment as your next AC Transit Director.
Thank you. Right on time. Well, let me go to some of our questions that we have for both of you. Candidate Goward, can you tell us what is the #1 factor that led you to run for the office of AC Transit Director?
Are we starting with me because I just started first?
Well, you gave your opening statement.
Yes. So are we starting with me again?
Well, I had started with the questions, yes.
Okay.
But I can, if you prefer, I can start with Candidate Gunn.
Yes, I would prefer, please.
All right. Yes, thank you. Candidate Gunn, do you mind going first with that question, which is what's the #1 factor that led you to run for the office?
Yes, I am a reluctant candidate who had often said I would never run for anything because it's a lot of work. What finally convinced me was actually working with one of my students who was a refugee from Afghanistan. Her last completed grade was in fourth grade. She came over after the Taliban took over following the US leaving the area. And she needed a lot of support with math. Unfortunately, the World House bus leaves school immediately after the bell rings. And so it didn't give her access to tutoring, clubs, sports, anything like that. And the nearest public transit, AC transit bus is a half mile away. So what made me decide to actually do this was realizing that this story is not unique for this one student. There are many people, and not just students. We have people who are elderly who maybe don't get around as well as they used to. And somebody needs to fight for people who are going to have difficulty getting around otherwise.
Thank you very much for that. And now, candidate Goward, the question being, what's the number one factor that led you to run for this office?
Absolutely. It's a couple of things. One, as a bus rider, it's having trouble getting to work myself. The bus doesn't always come reliably, and as someone who has to be on work on time, because I'm responsible for a lot of people, I need to get to work on time, and I want to be a fighter for all those other people. I have flexibility and others do not. I'm also temporarily disabled, and I cannot currently ride the bus. My bus stop is down a very steep hill that I can't get to right now, and paratransit is not available to me. I also live down the street from Cal State East Bay, and I see students coming down that hill on scooters all the time because they don't have access to reliable bus service. And I see them nearly get hit by cars. And I want to be sure that this service is around and it's safe and it's reliable and that it will be around. And lastly, I think this region should have a world-class transit service to be a world-class region.
Thank you, candidate Goward, right on time. So our next question then starts with you, candidate Goward, to answer first. What do you see as the strongest skill set that you would bring to this position?
Absolutely. I have 21 years of higher education administrative experience. That includes supporting and leading represented staff of two different unions. I have, like I said in my opening statement, I manage actually three different multi-million dollar budgets. I am a leader in my community. I'm the chair of the Library Commission. I have strong relationships in this community. My endorsements come from leaders in this community, and that's who I would have to work with to get things done in this community for AC Transit. That includes the Planning Commission, the local elected officials across Fairview, Hayward, and Newark. That is what I am bringing to this position. I lead staff, and I collaborate with folks very, very well.
Thank you. And now, candidate Gunn.
Yes, I believe that directors work to ensure that the vision aligns with public priorities, and that the long-term goals that we have are reflected in the community that we serve. While administrators do execute plans, directors lead with broader perspective. They create policy frameworks, they advocate for resources, and they really shape the future of our system. My record is in community leadership and organizing, and I believe this translates well into this role. I've established many great working relationships with elected leaders and community leaders over the years in my work fighting for tenants' rights, public safety, school safety, pedestrian safety, climate justice, and community funding projects. Um, None of these came with a blueprint for success, but we have been successful. And while many of the region's most important and influential and steadfast leaders have endorsed me in this race, it's because they see my results working with them.
Thank you. And candidate Gunn, I will ask you the next question first. What is your proudest accomplishment, and explain how this experience enables you to achieve future accomplishments if you are selected?
My proudest accomplishment changes periodically being a teacher because I'm constantly inspired by the work that my students are doing and the way that they feel empowered to take on the things that are important to them. 2 years ago, we had, and I think this is going to be the one. 2 years ago, we had a team of mostly female high school students at Tennyson who gathered up the courage to come in on their summer break and present to our Hayward School Board a policy for composting and recycling. Not only did they present how it could be done, they cited the law that we were in violation of at the time, and also provided a framework for how they could do this in the future. And many of those students who I worked with and supported in this process are now college students at UC Berkeley, at UC Santa Barbara, and at Cal State East Bay. And so my proudest moment would be seeing what proud moments they create.
Thank you. And Candidate Goward, to you, what is your proudest accomplishment, and explain how this experience enables you to achieve future accomplishments if you are selected?
Absolutely. My proudest accomplishment to date is being a first-generation college graduate. Starting in a multi-generational home, because my mom was a single parent, so we lived with my grandparents, walking to Fairview Elementary, taking my first public bus ride to Bret Hart, junior high, not middle school, junior high back then, to taking the bus to the washateria, to then going on to earn a degree as the first in my family, informs how I think about problems and making sure that those with limited incomes are remembered, whether it's in the educational system where I work or in the public goods that I fight for, including transit. I want to remember that there are others, families like mine, who rely on public goods, and make sure I fight that they remain public and remain funded. That's vital to me. And that's how my experience informs what I do.
Thank you. And now let me turn again to you, Candidate Goward, for the next question. What do you view as the role and responsibilities of a board member, and how do your skills and qualifications enable you to be a good fit to serve as director?
The role of a board member is governance. That person has to guide the policy of the board. So that means they have to work with staff. They have to take into account the needs of the writers and the needs of the workers and the needs of the budget all together, and balance them out to come up with a service that supports all at the same time and protects all of those entities at the same time. They have to build consensus across the other 6 members of the board to do that work. I do that work every day. I'm a part of a large university. I'm in charge of a unit that supports a significant number of staff members, and across 2 bargaining units, and I have to do that with a significant number of colleagues. So I am in charge of a unit that has to work in tandem with other folks to get to the goal of graduating students. So I bring that level of experience to guide 28,000 undergraduates every day.
Thank you. And Candidate Gunn?
I'm going to agree with Shonda here that governance is incredibly important. As you know, the bell doesn't dismiss us teachers either. And so we're often find ourselves in many different roles. At the moment, I am the co-chair of our site's SBDM committee. I've also been the co-lead of the Climate Empowerment Learning Initiative this is now our 4th year. I am a community services commissioner, where I've had the privilege of chairing our arts and music funding arc. I'm also a board member for our local labor union, our teachers union, where I sit on the board of directors and also as their delegate to the Alameda Labor Council. My experience in leadership is vast, but I understand that in order to get anywhere, it requires a lot of collaboration. It requires knowing when to fight and when to compromise. And my experience doing all of this work in our community for years is what distinguishes me.
Thank you. And let me then continue with you, Candidate Gunn, on the next question, which is, what do you see as the current successes of the Transit District, Ward 6? And what would you do to support those in the future? And do you see a need for changes in the future? So I know that's 3 questions, but if you could look at current successes, how would you support these in the future? And do you see a need for changes?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I would say is that our successes in getting us through the COVID-19 pandemic are huge. And that is in direct relationship to our amazing workers that we have at AC Transit, our our operators, our mechanics, our staffers, and our schedulers, the people who are in management working at the office, making sure that everyone has what they need in order to get the buses out on time where they need to be. I also think that as we're facing a regional fiscal public transit crisis, AZ Transit has done a good job of making sure they're responsible with funding. And although we are facing a fiscal cliff, this is not unique for AC Transit. It is something that we're seeing throughout the system. And so I think that as we build on these successes, we need to see what we can do to collaborate with other transit agencies and to support our workers with dignified working conditions going forward.
Thank you. And candidate Goward, to you, what do you see as the current successes of the transit district, and what would you do to support them in the future? Do you see a need for changes?
Yes, I would agree with my fellow opponent about the work that was done to get us through COVID. What a significant challenge that everyone fought through. One of the other significant successes has been emulating what has been done in Emeryville. Our city council members have been working to add bus stops and bus seats so that people can be comfortable at the bus stop and encourage them to ride the bus. More ridership means that buses are safer. What we can do to be more successful is ensure that, Hayward pays a parcel tax into AC Transit. That means some of more of those dollars have to come back to Ward 6. And as we advocate, both of us are in support of the regional ballot measure, but that means that money has to come back to the ward, and we want to advocate for those dollars to come back to the ward. We can also take some lessons from Union City and some of the work that they do to provide on-demand services in the ward as well.
All right, thank you. And then candidate Gower, let me ask you the next question first is, what do you see as the greatest challenges facing the transit district and why? What do you view as the obstacles to overcome these challenges? And if elected, what is your plan to overcome them?
Absolutely. One, it's going to be this transit measure. The regional transit measure was stopped partially because certain counties don't believe they already have different funding measures, and they want to understand how this will tie into what they already have. One of the biggest challenges to Senate Bill 1031 was Santa Clara County, where I currently work. And so one of the things that I have when I bring to the board would be relationships, not just in Alameda County, but Santa Clara County where I work. And I would bring that to this conversation. The other part is figuring out how to work together. It doesn't mean that there has to be a consolidation of the agencies, but the agencies would do better to work together to think about how do we create more commuters, particularly to use public transit. Right now, the ridership is particularly limited income people, and that is absolutely important. But in order for this to be a regional transit area, you're going to have to get commuters to ride public transportation again.
Thank you. And then let me ask candidate Gunn for your response to what do you see as the greatest challenges facing the organization and why? What do you view as the obstacles to overcome these challenges? And if elected, what is your plan to overcome them?
I agree with Shonda here, and particularly on the funding fiscal issues that we face. And I'm proud that Aisha Wahab, who has authored SB 1031 and who will be bringing it back, has endorsed my campaign for this reason. So the other challenge that I wanted to bring up, and not to echo too much, is we have a challenge of dignified working conditions for our bus operators at the moment. For years that we have been struggling to provide adequate restroom facilities or restroom facilities at all. In some cases, operators go up to 8 hours without being able to use the restroom or use their allotted recovery time. And so currently, at the moment, we have been assured that in this realign process, that many of these issues will be addressed during the implementation. And so if elected, I will be on the board as this implementation happens. We have to listen to our bus operators. In regards to the on-demand service, I support it. We just have to make sure that our bus operators are included in the conversation, and right now they're not.
Thank you. And then let me ask you this question first now, candidate Gunn. This next question. How would you explain the workings and the impact of the Transit District Ward 6 to an interested constituent, someone who may not be familiar but would like to know what you really do and how do they figure out how to vote?
That is a question that comes up repeatedly, actually. So I've been campaigning since February and holding a lot of tabling at community events and just being out in the public talking to people. And I've heard from people who rely daily on our public transit service. Around 60% of AC Transit's riders, by the way, do not have access to a vehicle without public transit being available. But I've also heard from folks who used to ride and no longer can. I've heard from folks who have no interest in riding and they wonder who even does. And so I think we need to be out in the community and talking to people more about the essential service this really does provide. It's been important for me and many times in my life to rely on the bus. At the moment, I choose bus service because I can and it's flexible and I believe in it. But for many people, including our youth, who are less reliant on cars these days, I think about how can we get our youth in the bus instead of on Uber or Lyft. Thank you.
Thank you. And then let me turn and ask the same question to candidate Goward. How would you explain the workings and the impact of the transit district to an interested constituent?
This particular candidate, this particular district is unique because we've lost significant ridership. And so to a interested constituent, what I would say is that this particular position is one, it's brand new. And so I've been telling folks that it's having representation on the AC Transit Board is really vital. They've had representation before, but not specifically for Fairview, Hayward, and Newark. When I talk about the parcel tax and how Hayward pays into it, but we're not necessarily receiving the services back, a lot of our money is used in the aggregate, and that service goes into Oakland. Oakland's a wonderful town. I love the town, but we are not able to get all of the things that we need in our area, and how what I would do as a member of the board is to be sure to advocate for that so that we can get more bus stops, more service, making sure that we have officers in our area monitoring our buses so that they're safe and reliable. That is what is important about this particular seat.
Thank you. And then candidate Goward, let me ask you the next question first, which is, what would be your budget priorities if you were elected for the district?
The first thing is what we've been talking about all night, is figuring out the funding. We're trying to protect service and strong union jobs, and to do that, you need funding. Now, the wonderful thing about AC Transit is it is not as rider fare box dependent as our sister agency BART. But that doesn't mean that once the COVID dollars are gone, that AC Transit can survive. We've already seen lines disappear to things like the park service, right? We have all these wonderful parks that people want to enjoy, but they can't get there. So we're going to have to figure out how to partner with different agencies such as the parks. There are federal grants that are tied to affordable housing that can be applied for, as Hayward and Newark are building up housing to add transit-oriented development with that as well. We're going to have to get creative with the funding and partner with our sister counties as well that are reluctant to buy into a regional transit measure.
Thank you. And let me ask the same question now to candidate Gunn for what would be your budget priorities?
I agree with Shonda that closing this fiscal cliff will be incredibly important. In addition to seeking additional funding from this regional transit measure, I think a lot could be said about just improving the service that we do have, making sure that our buses are on time, that our schedules align with the reality of how long it takes to get from A to B, and really boosting our ridership. If we can do that, closing the gap on our ridership since the COVID-19 pandemic would go a long way towards helping close this fiscal cliff. It won't secure it entirely, but places want to see that we're doing our part. They don't want to see that we're only going to rely on this regional funding measure. In addition, beyond this, once we get past this current fiscal challenge, I would actually like to collaborate more with our state and federal leaders to see more long-term sustainable funding for public transit so that we can actually future-proof our transit for years to come.
Thank you. And then let me ask you, candidate, again, the next question first. Well, turning to the community, what has been your involvement in the community as opposed to just the transit district itself?
There's a lot. So I've been working in the community for years. You may remember about 3 years ago, we were facing school closures. There was actually 8 schools that were on the verge of being permanently closed. And so I organized not just with teachers and classified staff union members, but actually with parents and just community members to fight back against this. And we were able to save 6 schools. I have served on commissions. I've done community advocacy work. For example, for our HEART program, which now exists in large part due to the advocacy work that we did in 2020. In addition, there is the people's budget process that has taken place in Hayward, in which communities got to devote up to around $60,000 to community funding projects like after-school tutoring, the South Hayward Market, the skate festival that happened at Weeks Park, the my mind's going to blank, but there was about 12 different projects.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And let me ask the same question now to candidate Goward about your involvement in the community, a larger community, not just in the transit district.
Absolutely. So I spend the majority of my time between 4 different organizations. 2 of them are tied together. First is the Friends of the Hayward Public Library, where we volunteer and raise funds for our beautiful library. I'm the vice president of the Friends. I'm also the chair of the Library Commission, where we work, again, it's another governance organization in Hayward, where we work to provide policy governance to the library. I'm also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, where I serve on our political committee, informing the public about things like voter education, and I'm proud that we have partnered with the League of Women Voters in the past. I'm also an active member of the Junior League of the Oakland East Bay, where we provide a development space for women who are looking to become leaders in the nonprofit space. And that is a space where I have served on our board of directors, particularly in the area of fund development and volunteering.
Thank you for that. So candidate Gower, let me ask you first the next question. Each board member has 1 vote, and it takes a majority vote to take action. How do you see your approach, skills, and expertise assisting you in building a collaborative board and staff?
Yes, part of it is understanding the neighboring districts and how do we partner together to make sure each of the districts has what they need. So I have the support, the endorsement of Board President Joel Young, which goes a long way. The support of Murphy McCallie, who's a neighboring board member in Castro Valley. So having those conversations, Director McCallie and this ward share bus lines. So what do you need for what do we need, and how do we collaborate to make sure that these 2 areas have what we need together, and advocating for those things together? It's having conversations, not just with the directors, but regularly with the represented unions. I'm endorsed by AFSCME, both the local and the council district, and making sure we're regularly communicating with them and then bringing back that information back to the board so that it's not a once a year space where folks are upset. It's regularly being in communication.
Thank you. And let me ask the same question to candidate Gunn about each board member having one vote. How do you see your approach, skills, and expertise assisting you in building a collaborative board and staff?
I agree that having collaboration with the board is incredibly important, and I'm proud that I do have support from directors Sarah Syed and Jovanka Beckles currently on the board, as well as Murphy McCallie, who's supported my campaign financially. Um, I would also say that what really makes a difference is having that public engagement. You can really get a lot done when the public is engaged and connected with what's happening in decision-making process. I will say that Hayward is not public transit hasn't really been on the map for Hayward. Not a lot of people were talking about it in Hayward or Newark or Fairview. And in these conversations that I had, for example, when I talked to neighbors in Fairview, they brought up issues in Castro Valley at Eden Hospital with the bus stopping at the bottom of the hill and people needing to walk up to the top. And so I did bring that to Murphy McCallie and said, hey, what can we do about this? That's the sort of thing that I would bring. We are, of course, limited by the Brown Act. We cannot discuss with more than 3 members. Oh, I see the time.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, but thank you for those points. And candidate Gunn, let me ask you first this next question. Are you committed to professional development to enhance your personal growth as an elected official?
Absolutely. That's sort of the norm as an educator, and I'm sure Shonda would probably agree on that statement. What I'll say is that in addition to our required professional development that we do as educators, I've participated in a number of voluntary professional development activities and even led a few. I was happy to participate in the AAREA, African American group that does professional development specifically to support our African American students. I've also participated in the CMC math conference, not so related with AC Transit, but again, that's the sort of thing that I bring is making sure that I am involved 100%, 110% in anything that I do.
Thank you. And let me ask the same question to candidate Goward. Are you committed to professional development to enhance your personal growth as an elected official?
Well, I have an earned doctorate. I've gone to 24th grade, which I think demonstrates my commitment to education. Furthermore, San Jose State, where I'm employed, houses the Mineta Transportation Institute. My leadership fully supports my run for this seat and is made available that as a resource to be sure I am well informed of transportation concerns in this particular area.
Thank you. And then candidate Gower, let me ask you this next question, looking back more narrowly to the transit district itself. Do you see any need to realign services in the district?
Well, the realignment project will be completed by the time this person is seated. And so this person won't necessarily have input beyond what, like I said, I've already submitted my comments via the official public citizen comment period. So it would be the role of the director to implement the plan that will be approved by this sitting board.
All right, thank you. And also for now, candidate Gunn, same question. Do you have any recommendations or do you see service needing to be realigned in your district?
Yes, so this current realign may be on its last moments before the implementation process, but during this, there was also the proposal for a realign plus, which would get us closer to our pre-pandemic service levels. It does require additional operators. We're down about 120-ish operators at the moment, last time I checked. It also requires additional funding. So yes, I would like to see not just a realign of in the traditional sense of this particular plan, but aligning our schedules to make sure that they actually make sense for the routes that we have. As you know, traffic congestion has only gotten worse over the years, and our bus schedules are still using old timetables from many years ago. I also want to make sure that that process of adjusting these schedules is a bit more timely. It's currently about 9 months that it takes between the first report of issues and the actual fix being implemented. So I would want to encourage more collaboration between labor partners and staff to make sure that happens.
Thank you. Thank you both for those answers. I have a couple more questions, and I'll start again this next question with you, Candidate Gunn. You may, and if you've answered it already, you can let me know, but these are questions that we received from some of our viewers. AC Transit is facing a fiscal cliff in fiscal year 25-26. What proposals do you have to resolve the crisis?
I think we have spoken a lot to this, but the one thing that I'll add is that I want to make sure that we are working very closely with the MTC. Right now, AC Transit does not have representation on the MTC, and yet our service is, when you look at the equity through an equity lens, our service is definitely more diverse when it comes to racial and ethnic background, when it comes to income levels. And I want to make sure that we're getting appropriate service for the needs of our residents, not just in Ward 6, but throughout the AC Transit network. The other thing that I would say is that currently MTC is exploring how it's going to solve this crisis on its own. And one of those options is every agency for itself. I don't want to see an AC Transit tax, a Caltrain tax, a BART tax, a Muni tax. I want to make sure that we're working together to do this collaboratively.
Thank you. And let me ask the same question now to Candidate Goward. With the transit facing a fiscal cliff in fiscal year 2025 and 2026, what proposals do you have to resolve the crisis?
Again, I do think that we have addressed this significantly, similar to thinking about MTC. The other place to think is locally is with the Alameda Transportation Commission. We need our local partners to talk to, again, to our sister counties. AC Transit is not going to be able to survive by itself. So we're going to have to partner with other counties, and it's going to be convincing our partners in Sonoma and Santa Clara and other counties to think about our region and how do we move workers through our region to really live up to our potential as a world-class region. And you cannot do that without public transportation, and not just and also to be an environmental leader. The way of the future for a region this big is to move workers in an environmentally sound way, and that can't be through cars.
Thank you both for that. We have a lightning round of just one word answer without a timer.
That wasn't a lightning round, Miss Elaine?
Can you tell us then, I would start with you first, Candidate Goward, how many transit meetings have you attended this year?
So I do attend online, and I would say I would have attended at least 6 of them.
All right, thank you. And Candidate Gunn, yourself, the same question. How many transit district meetings have you attended this year?
At least 6 in person and maybe close to a dozen online if you count committee meetings and things like that.
All right. Thank you both. I think that is all the questions that I have. And so
I thought there'd be more lightning.
No more lightning.
No, I think I'll have to add some more for the next forum. But thank you both for all your answers this evening. And I think now at this point we would ask you for your closing statement. And I believe since Candidate Goward started, I would ask Candidate Gunn to, I'm sorry, the closing statement.
Yes, so I would say, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the service that you're providing by educating voters on the different issues and the candidates. I think being a down ballot race, a lot of people don't know much. For example, a lot of people I've talked to didn't know that AC Transit was an elected seat. We're a rarity in the country. There's only about 3 boards where they do elect for transit, Muni being one of them. Or I'm sorry, BART being one of them, excuse me. So I would say that it's important to recognize that somebody will win this November. And I'm very happy that between Shonda and I, we both have a lot of similar ideas. And I think that no matter what, AC Transit is in good hands if either one of us gets in. What I'll say is that my experience in leadership has been recognized, and which is why I've earned so many endorsements from the Democratic Party, for example, from Council President of Oakland, Nikki Fortunato Bass, from former Assembly Member Bill Quirk, as well as many current elected leaders locally and at the state level. But really what I want to say is that I'm proud to be a labor candidate. I would not be running if it wasn't for the large amount of support I've received from labor unions, like the Alameda Labor Council, like the bus operators at ATU Local 192, like the building trades, for example. As a labor leader myself, I would not run if I was not going to be the labor candidate. And I'm proud to support dignified working conditions and adequate pay for working families. I also think it's important to have an eye for our future and for climate change. And I've been doing a lot of work over the years in fighting for climate justice and educating our students on their role to be our future leaders in solving the climate crisis. And I think as AC Transit Director, as we look to our zero emission vehicle goals, we want to make sure that we have somebody with a long-term vision.
Thank you so much. Let me then turn to candidate Goward for 2 minutes on closing statement.
Thank you so much again for this opportunity to speak to voters. Thank you again to the League of Women Voters, particularly of the Eden area, for this opportunity. I did not start my career in higher education. I actually started as a sports journalist. And after 9/11, I switched my career to be an advocate for public goods. And public goods are things like education, public transit, our environment. And I have become a protector of those things. And I do that work every day as a public university administrator, supervising represented staff, making sure that they have the wages that they deserve, that their collective bargaining agreement provides for them, that they have the working conditions that they deserve. I do that work every day already. I think I know I can continue to do that work for AC Transit because I do it every day. I am currently managing a multi-million-dollar budget through a financial situation in the CSU system, and I am trusted to do that work every day. I am the environmental candidate, and I'm proudly endorsed by the Sierra Club, and I want to expand the work that they've already done in Oakland in this particular ward. Would love to have zero emission buses in Fairview, Hayward, and Newark, but that takes increasing ridership. Currently, there are almost 80,000 commuters in Hayward and less than 3,000 public transit riders, and that's not just AC Transit, that's all of public transit. As a commuter myself that transits between 3 different systems, AC Transit, BART, and VTA, I am a person I can be the face and an advocate of the benefits of public transit. I'm also the local candidate. I'm endorsed by the local leaders of this community, and proudly so. I've done the work. I'm an advocate for public goods, and I ask for the public support.
Thank you so much. Thank you both. Thanks to both candidates, candidate Goward, candidate Gunn, for all your answers this evening. And to everyone who has been listening, we really appreciate the opportunity to hear from you. And I know, just speaking for myself, I've learned so much. So thank you both very much. And we will close a bit early, not having any other questions to ask at the moment, and having received both of your closing statements. So thank you both again. And thanks to everyone who listened in this evening.
I'm going to extend my virtual handshake to Jesse.
There we go. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.